Welcome into the NBA Morning Deuce. It is Tuesday, January 26th. What time is it? You know, my dad's
11:35.
really happy that you're keeping the time and I'm not keeping the time.
Yeah, I mean, anytime I can take something off your plate, I'm happy to do it. It's
he told me-
11:35 on the East
He
Coast.
told me today that it's really good that you know the time because I was struggling there for a while figuring out the time that we were doing the podcast. Somewhat busy. 3-game slate today, but pretty busy day in the NBA for news-wise, or at least rumor-wise. Unfortunately, just quickly there is some news that has come out later in the day, sad news in the NBA that I feel like just to start off with, just to pay some respects. Sekou Smith, who, if you follow the NBA at all, you've probably heard the name, on NBA TV all the time. He's been an NBA writer forever. I didn't know him personally. I know a lot of people who do know him just from covering the NBA for a long time. He passed away today due to complications from COVID-19. So thoughts, obviously, to his family and all the people in the NBA impacted by it. I mean, Stan Van Gundy was talking about it, today, just about how much of an impact Sekou had. So obviously the guy had a big impact covering the NBA for such a long time. Everyone, huge outpouring on social media. And obviously 48 years old and passed away from complications from COVID. So if there's anything to take away from it, people, it's that the shit's still very real and very much rampant, and just be safe because 48 is not old. And everyone, and this is not trying to get into like a political statement or any of that shit, but like even myself, right? I'm safe about it, but I'm also in my mind a lot of times I'm like, I'll be okay. I'm 34. Because it only really hurts like old people. Well, Sekou Smith was 48. And I don't know if he had underlying issues or any of that stuff, but still, 48 years old is shitty. Yeah. And I've read his stuff, back in the day. I mean, I've seen him around forever. So, thoughts obviously, like I said, to him and his family and everybody impacted by that, but just wanted to, recognize him off the top. Now, that being said, there's some incredible news that came out today. And not to, put him on the back burner, right? But let's get some positivity here. Caris Levert had successful surgery to remove what we now know was kidney cancer. I don't think, unless I'm missing something, you tell me, did we know that it was kidney cancer? Or up until today, were we just under the impression that it was a mass and we didn't know what it was?
Well, when we heard mass, obviously that's
right.
I don't
but
even
it could be
think
benign. It could be.
Yeah, I don't think we said the word cancer, but I know it was on my mind. But no, I don't think that was ever ever disclosed. At least not that I'm aware.
Yeah. So I mean, this is amazing, right? First things first. I mean, I briefly read about what he has, and the survival rate is very high. But of course, that's when you know. Like any cancer, like you have to know and find out that you have it. So there's no good cancer, but this one, they removed it, and the Pacers say that no further treatment is necessary. So they obviously caught it very early too. So man, this may be the best trade in NBA history.
Yeah. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, Jesus, we mentioned how early this detection must have been because we know these guys get physicals before the season starts,
right?
And then they catch this on a follow-up physical that wouldn't have been done if he hadn't gotten traded. It's amazing,
right? It's like I don't know that I don't know. Actually, I was trying to think about that earlier today when this came out. Have we ever seen another situation like this where a guy got traded and then they found out that he had a life-threatening thing and it saved him?
I don't know.
I feel like maybe there has been something with heart conditions.
Bell. Yeah, I don't know.
Wasn't there a little stretch where NBA guys were having heart conditions and then they couldn't play and stuff like that? I don't know.
I don't remember the specifics, but I do feel like this was a similar story in the last 10 years.
Not cancer.
No.
So this is incredible. I have no idea when he's going to play or if he can play this year. I mean, who knows? I don't know what this means. I don't know that I didn't read about the recovery or any of that. I guess that's really not important in this story. Like, and by the way, also just shout out to the Pacers, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like many organizations. First of all, I think it shows how much they believe in this guy. But also, don't you think? I guess like it would be probably bad PR by a team. But don't you think a lot of teams, once they saw this on the physical, would have potentially been like, hands, like we don't want to deal with it?
I do think that. And I don't know. I mean, the optics, if
It's
they had
shitty.
done that, would have been absolutely horrible. So maybe they didn't have a choice. I don't know. But
No,
let's say
totally.
let's say that they did something great here and ran with it and helped get him healthy, obviously.
No, they absolutely did do something great. I mean, they accidentally saved his life, but also chose, like, either way, the trade, he would have had to have the physical, and if he would have gone back to Brooklyn, then he would have had the surgery there.
Yeah.
Like, the trade saved his life. I'm just saying, like, they chose to not send him back because he had a problem with his physical, and they chose to give him the treatment, and he's going to rehab and get better as a Pacer. I don't know that every team would have done that. I think some teams would have. I think there are some teams that would have said, no.
Yeah, I'd imagine there were a couple that would be like, we're nixing this. But
Yeah. So, good for him. Good for
great for him. That's amazing.
Yeah, great for him. Awesome story. Also today, so there were 3 games tonight. We'll talk about the games. Again, not great basketball tonight, but we'll talk about it. But the big thing today was there was just randomly, but just like trade rumors just started popping up throughout the day. So we'll go through some of these that came out that, I mean, nothing shocking, but they're interesting. At least hit them. So the first thing I saw was that the Pelicans are reportedly willing to discuss trades for Lonzo Ball and JJ Redick.
two reactions, 2 thoughts on this.
Okay, go.
First one is, I'd imagine maybe they want more minutes for our boy Nall, and
Nickeil Alexander-Walker for the uninitiated.
and so if they think they can get value back and not lose too much in terms of production because this guy's ready to really produce for them, then that's great. But it also points back to that trade in the Drew Holiday trade. Just, I feel like this team, their upside would be so much better right now with Drew Holiday in the mix. Not that trading Lonzo and JJ is them like punting on the season or dumping or anything like that, but
Depends what you get back.
yeah, it does depend on what you get back. But I just feel like this team would be super dangerous with Drew right now, and this wouldn't even be like, they wouldn't be looking to shake things up. Like, this team would be humming along. But those were my 2 initial reactions from these rumors.
Yeah, the Nah thing is interesting. That could be true. I didn't really think about that. It's possible that they... But I don't think you have to trade guys to open up minutes. You just play the best player. But if you're paying... Like, JJ, I get it. Like, you're paying him to sit on the bench in that... So, yes, move him. Also, he's towards the end of his career, so if you want to do right by the guy, potentially, instead of having him sit on the bench for a team that... Probably not a playoff team at this point. Maybe.
They're going to
Potentially
be probably
playoff team.
scratching and clawing, maybe,
Right.
yeah.
Trade him somewhere if maybe a contender will go get him. I don't even know what his deal is, but I think he's making a decent amount of money. The Lonzo thing, I don't understand. I truly don't understand it. Eric Bledsoe's not good. You're not going in. You have no future with Eric Bledsoe as your starting point guard. I still think Lonzo Ball could be a really good point guard in this league. I think he is a good point guard in this league. I think teams fall so in love with scoring point guards and a point guard who can get you 20 any night. My thought process on this. I don't think it's necessary. Lonzo is a great passer. He has developed into a good 3-point shooter, even though his numbers don't reflect it. Like, he's just now getting that form down. I think he will be a good career 3-point shooter. It's almost a lot of people, when he got in the league, compared it to Jason Kidd, how Jason Kidd totally transformed his shot and ended up being like top 10 all time and made 3-pointers. I don't know that that's what's going to happen with Lonzo. I'm just saying, like, he's totally transformed his shot and he can make shots now. and he's a really good defender. He does all the things I think you want, and he's big. Like, he can guard multiple positions. I think he does all the things you want from a good starting point guard. I'm not sure what the angle is here to trade him. Like, what he's on his rookie deal, so you're not going to get back a great player. You already have 8,000 future draft picks. So unless the thought is packaging these guys together because of the salary and potentially bringing back Bradley Beal, something like that, then I can figure it out. But if you're just like probing teams to see who's interested in Lonzo, who's interested in JJ as a separate entities, I don't understand what you think you could potentially get for Lonzo Ball.
Yeah, the only angle I can think of is, maybe behind closed doors negotiations have gone or went so poorly, like they pretty much know he doesn't want to be there long term. So let's just get something for him now, or he'll walk.
Yeah, but what are you going to get? You're not going to get anything for him.
You'd rather
get a first round for. You maybe get like a heavily protected first rounder for him at this point. You're not going to get a player.
Yeah, no, I think you could get a protected first round pick for him, and it makes sense only from the aspect if
I'd do it if I was. I would do it just about any team. I would do it.
Yeah. No, I know. I'm saying I think it makes more sense from the Pelicans if it's just become clear that he doesn't really want to be there. And they're like, okay, let's move on and get something.
Why would he not want to be there already?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird.
It is
trade
weird.
him to
but
Charlotte.
I agree. Yeah,
trade
why
him to
not?
Charlotte.
That would be electric. Yeah.
Trade him to Charlotte. Have Charlotte pick up LiAngelo. Who should trade for JJ?
Sixers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he played fantastic under Doc Rivers, right, with the Clippers. Like, we know he fits.
Yeah.
That'd be beautiful.
Anybody, but here's the thing with JJ is like anybody should trade for him.
True.
Let me look up how much he makes, because that's an important part of this, because he is old, but he's 36. Jeez. He's making $13 million. That's not that much.
No, it's fine. It's probably right in the wheelhouse of what you'd want a guy like that to make. The Sixers would be beautiful just because
any team would for that.
Yeah.
For that contract, pretty much any team would. For $13 million a year, you're getting a top 10 3-point shooter. And maybe not statistically this year, but you're getting, a guy who can totally change what your offense looks like if he's right.
Yeah.
Now I don't know how he's played this year. Didn't see all his minutes.
His minutes have been super low this year, or not
shooting
super low, but
30% from the field or from three, which is not good. He's only playing 20 minutes a game.
20 minutes, yeah, that's kind of surprising to me.
Shooting 100% from the free throw line.
Mm-hmm. He might not miss this year,
but I would take a shot on him for $13 million.
Yeah.
I don't know who has the money in the situation. I don't know how it works, but maybe combining them, you go get another player. It's weird. Now, also, in addition to that, there was a rumor that came out today that the Pelicans and the Warriors have discussed a trade for Kelly Oubre.
Interesting.
Again, now we don't know any details, okay? But what does Kelly Oubre bring to the Pelicans?
At least a first round pick.
No.
Oh, you mean what does he bring? Gotcha.
Yeah, what are the Pelicans hoping to accomplish by potentially getting Kelly Oubre? Is he gonna be your starting two? Because he's not starting over Brandon Ingram. Now, here's where it could be interesting, right? If they're saying we need to play Zion at the 5 and Brandon Ingram at the 4. And let's go get Kelly Oubre so we have a starting 3. Now I'm interested.
I can see it in your eye. You're piqued by that.
But if they're just like, what are they going to give up? Like, I don't know. It's interesting. It would be interesting if the Warriors have already given up on that. Because didn't they give up a first round pick for him?
Yeah, they did to your boy.
So maybe they're just trying to get that pick back.
Pelicans have so many first round picks after the Drew Holiday trade. So, oh, you mean the Warriors are trying to get that pick back? Yeah,
right.
Then that would make sense. I just think, I don't know. Maybe Kelly Oubre is just flat out not fitting what the Warriors want to do. I don't know. It's all speculation, but that would be interesting.
Yeah.
The Pelicans
the report was that they've discussed it. I just don't understand. From the Warriors' perspective, I get it. If you're just trying to get assets, I mean, you're just about 20 games into the season. If you just don't think it makes sense to have him there, try to go get that pick back that you traded for him. That's fine. For the Pelicans, I just don't totally understand how he fits there unless they see him as just like a spark plug off the bench, maybe. I don't know. It's just a weird thing. And then the last trade, well, it's not really a trade rumor, but it would have to be a trade, was that the Clippers and the Knicks are reportedly interested in Derrick Rose. Which is not super surprising either because I feel like everyone's interested in Derrick Rose.
Yeah.
I think there's been like a campaign from NBA Twitter before the season started to get that guy out of Detroit.
Yeah. I would just love to see him on the Clippers and get Pat Beverly just to the bench or just not in like my face all the time. Like Derrick Rose taking over for Pat Beverly makes them a lot more dangerous.
And I'll tell you who may actually take over for Pat Beverly if he plays the way he played tonight. Reggie Jackson.
Yeah, led the team in scoring tonight. Right?
He played, but it wasn't even just that. He was all over the place. I mean, he played really good basketball tonight. We'll talk about that game momentarily, but no Kawhi, no Paul George tonight, and no Pat Beverly. So he led that team. It was a competitive game. They still lost, but it was a competitive game. He looked really good. Obviously, he's inconsistent. So, Derrick Rose is an upgrade over both those guys for sure. But
definitely,
yeah, I mean, of course he'd be good. Derrick Rose would be really good for the Clippers. The Knicks is just like, what are you doing?
Yeah, so Quickly is just so like he's just so clearly the guy you want to see what he develops into. Why bring in an older Derrick Rose to?
It does strike me a little bit like, and not to knock like what we did in Charlotte, but it was like. When we brought in Steve Clifford and we started winning some games and it had been so long since we won games, it was like, all right, let's do what we got to do to win games. Like we haven't won in so long. Let's just win some games. Mm-hmm. And Tibbs is probably like, look, man, look at how many close games we've lost some close games. We could be a playoff team. We could be a playoff team this year. I don't have a point guard. Look at that. You're making me roll Elfrid Payton's corpse out there. You know what I mean? Like he's probably, and then they're like, what's his name? Leon Rose. He's up there in the front office like, oh, man, I could be the GM who turned this thing around in a year. Not even a year. Let's go get D. Rose.
Yeah,
bring him back on the big stage.
Turn this thing around because,
playoffs.
They'd be the playoffs, but I mean, for how long? Like how long?
Oh, yeah, no. It would be exactly what happened to us in Charlotte.
Yeah.
They would realize it's not sustainable. They trade away all the vets, be out of the playoffs the next year, and still be in rebuilding mode to this day. And let me tell you something. I will tell you this right now. In my career working in basketball directly with teams, there are two moments, like when people, if anybody ever did ask, there's two moments that specifically stick out to me in my basketball life that I vividly like recall immediately. If like, what are the highlights? Like when, the semifinals of the ACC championship of the ACC tournament when I was at Florida State my senior year. Okay, this is a great story. You want to hear a good basketball story? This is a fun story. We'll go off on a little tangent here. So my senior year at Florida State, we were on the bubble. Actually, we weren't really on the bubble. We were going to be. I think we would have been like a 10 seed, like a 9-10 seed either way, no matter what happened in the tournament. But going deep in the tournament, I think we ended up as a 5 seed because we made it to the finals of the ACC tournament. But that year was Ty Lawson, Wayne Ellington, Danny Green, Tyler Hansborough. That team won a national championship that year. So we had some clowns. We always had some clowns. We had some, so we were, that year, that team had Tony Douglas, who ended up in the NBA, Solomon Alabi, Ryan Reed, who both had like a cup of coffee in the NBA, and then a bunch of other guys you probably never heard of. So we make it to the semifinals, number one team in the country. They seem pretty unbeatable. They're pretty much unbeatable. And our captain that year was a senior. His name was Uche Echefu. Nigerian guy. He was like the leader, like, senior captain, like motivation. So before the game, everyone, it's kind of like, it's just regular pregame. Everyone's out in the hallway kind of, doing their thing, right? we had Solomon, who was also Nigerian. Solomon used to do this like Nigerian chant before games, and the guys learned it, and they would like get in the circle. So like he started doing it early, and everyone got in the circle, and he was like, I don't remember how it went. It was like C100.
Joey's swaying back and forth right now.
Yeah.
I can see it.
So they're all doing it, so it's already kind of like, all right, things are getting serious now. But then North Carolina used to do this thing. I don't know if they still do it. They walked out of their locker room in a straight line, in a single file line, and they clapped like this. Right?
Okay.
It was super corny, right? Mm-hmm. So we had this one guy, Derwin Kitchen, right? And he was a goofy.
Unreal name. Okay.
Yeah. Great guy. Super nice guy, but also kind of goofy. At the time. I don't know what he is now. They're doing their thing. They're kind of like, it's in a neutral site, so the locker rooms are near each other, and they're doing this thing, right? And Derwin just starts going, oh, and then all of our guys started doing it while they were doing it, and they stopped. They were shook, like no one. It was like no one had ever seen them do it, so they stopped. They didn't know what to do because our guys were doing it, and then they go out on the court. Uche was the guy who was the captain, not supposed to play. Back totally fucked up, right? He's in the locker room. He's the only one still in the locker room. And everyone's looking around like, all right, now what? As soon as they stop clapping, our guys stop clapping, they're out on the court. Uche kicks the fucking locker room door open, comes running out, and runs ahead of everyone and runs out of the court. Everyone's like, yeah! And I was like, holy shit, we are going to beat North Carolina. And we fucking rocked them. That was their last loss before they won the national championship.
That's awesome.
And then we went to the ACC finals and got fucking our shit pushed in by Duke. I think Gerald Henderson had like 30 or something.
If you had the ability to just place a bet from your phone at that point in time, how much would you have put on Florida State after he kicked the door in?
All of it. It was just, yeah. So I don't know why that. Oh,
that was one of two. That was one of two basketball moments. Yeah.
Yeah. The other one, not as exciting, but it was when we clinched the playoffs in Charlotte for the first time in 10 years. So I bring that up to bring it full circle back to the Knicks. Like, when you haven't been good in so long, even just making the playoffs, even though on the outside everyone's like, oh, who cares? They're not good. Man, that was a big moment for us, especially the people who like lived through the shit and were there, and then finally we're like, man, we're not winning a championship, but this is much better than sucking.
Yeah.
This is much better than sucking.
And I do think, it builds confidence in your coach. You just, even if you get stuffed in the first round of the playoffs, just knowing that your guy can get you there.
Yeah, and I've said this a number of times, learning how to win.
Yeah.
When you've been bad for so long, you have a culture of losing. So learning how to win, and particularly with the young guys, right? Like, we're talking about how Obi Toppin and Emmanuel Quickley are the future of this team. But imagine, like, if they were just getting dog walked every night. You know, you're teaching them how to be losers. At least right now, even though they're not playing as much as maybe everyone wants them to, you're teaching them how to be winners on some level. I mean, they're not winning a ton of games. But you're teaching them how to not be, you know, the laughing stock of the NBA, which they've been for so long.
Yeah, that's important.
So go get Derrick Rose. I think the point is go get Derrick Rose.
I actually I don't want them to. I want to see Derrick Rose contend for a title, so I'm not on board with that.
Sure. Yes. Man, what if he goes to the Lakers? They were talking about that before the season. But then he'd be a backup. He's not playing over Schroeder.
No.
And also, you know what? No, I don't want him to go to the Lakers. Because I don't think he makes them that much better offensively. And if he goes to the Lakers, then Caruso probably isn't going to play. And I tell you what, he's a lockdown defender for them. Like their defense is incredible.
Yeah, I don't think the Lakers need it. You know, I don't see much incentive for the Lakers to go get him. But
yeah, you're probably right. All right, let's recap tonight's games, I guess, real quick. There was 3 of them, nothing crazy. The Jazz, man, the Jazz win their 9th game in a row. They now have the second best record in the NBA. And I tweeted. You want to know what I tweeted?
Yeah.
I said that this Utah Jazz win streak has convinced me that after back-to-back first-round exits, the Utah Jazz are now good enough to lose in the second round.
Like
it's still how I feel about
I'm
this
with
team.
you. Yeah,
it's still how I feel about this team. I mean,
they'd have to get like Miami Heat hot last year. Not even that. I mean, the Heat were actually talented as shit last year, but like they got hot and just everything was clicking at the right time. I think that's what the Jazz would have to hit that stretch, and I could see them upsetting someone in the second round.
But you know what the problem is?
Doubt it's gonna happen.
But you know what the problem with that is? They're getting hot right now.
Yeah. Can they get re-hot?
They've won 9 games in a row.
They're off the map right now.
It's not going to get much hotter than right now. 27-19 from Rudy Gobert. Come on.
You missed my jazz wordplay there, but I think that's a term in jazz when you're playing really well. You're off the map, but okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I would have missed it either way. I didn't know that was a term. I hate it. I hate that I can't give more like poignant like observation about the Jazz whenever we talk about them. But it's always the same to me. Like even winning 9 games in a row, I saw nothing new. There's nothing impressive to me. Like they're playing really good, but they always play good in the regular season. And just nothing's changed.
What they kind of remind me of, and not exactly, but a little bit, is like those really, really good Hawks teams with like Horford and Jeff Teague, where like you knew like they were so good, but you just really knew they weren't.
There was no true star.
Yeah, there was no, and they probably weren't
potentially all-star level guys.
Yeah, like and just not really a title contender, even though they finished first in the East. So you're like, okay, maybe, but
this
more
team
than anything, the
this
pieces.
team might finish first in the East.
Oh, this team would, yeah.
So there you go. I mean,
but yeah, the point is, their pieces just fit so well together. Quinn Snyder's coaching his ass off, so they're really good. They are fantastic, and it's all going to come down to what they do in the playoffs.
Listen, I'll tell you why this team is not good enough to go deeper than the second round.
Hit me.
Bojan Bogdanovic and Royce O'Neal are your starting forwards. That's just not going to get it done in the NBA. And today's in the Western Conference, when you potentially have to go up against Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, when you potentially have to go up against LeBron James and Anthony Davis, when you potentially have to go up against Michael Porter Jr. and Jokic is a center, but he's you know what I mean. Like,
he can affect the game from different levels. Yeah,
even like Jay Crowder and Bridges are better than these two guys to me. Like to make a run in the playoffs. I mean, obviously Bogdanovic can score, but like everything else.
Yeah,
I mean, at least those two guys. Like, at least if you go into a game against Paul George and Kawhi Leonard or LeBron James and Anthony Davis with Bridges and Jay Crowder, you're like, at least we're gonna play some defense.
Yeah, we can make things hard on them at least.
Right, we can switch everything we do. Bogdanovic can't move, and O'Neal's just dude, they needed 20 points out of O'Neal to beat the Knicks. Come on.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at with this team. Like if they were able to improve their wings, maybe. But not that I agree necessarily with Shaq, but I kind of agree with Shaq.
Whether or not we agree with Shaq.
Yeah, Shaq's
a
bully.
Be a dick and say
yeah, he's an asshole,
like,
and that moment was very uncomfortable.
My biggest issue is some people were defending it as constructive criticism. People can't take constructive. Like it wasn't constructive. He was just insulting him.
I wish like Dame or not Dame. Like I'm thinking about Dame because I wish Donovan was like Dame, more like a Dame, where like in his mind he could have been like, like could have said something to like insult Shaq back, and like go at him a little bit, like, yeah, that's fine. You're the one who is trying to stay relevant by watching me play basketball or something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Like, something like that. Mm-hmm.
Like it's hard with Shaq because Shaq would be relevant whether he was doing this or not. So no matter what you say to Shaq, Shaq's gonna have a comeback because he's, maybe like the 5th most famous player to ever play the sport. Like he's up there in terms of the most famous people to ever play the sport. He's up there and he's done so much on and off the court. It's hard to come back at him. That's why it's unfair for him to put these guys in this position. And also just like as an older guy and like trying to like prop up the league. Like I feel like the league probably can't be super happy that like one of their young like budding stars is just totally getting taken down by a Hall of Famer on national TV.
And it was a takedown. That's the thing. It was not constructive criticism. And I think Donovan Mitchell handled it perfectly in the sense, like,
he looked uncomfortable, man.
Shaq is revealing himself very quickly as he tries to stay relevant as just kind of a dick. So I think Donovan Mitchell just letting Shaq be a dick might be the best thing he can do. And I have a hunch that in 5 to 10 years we'll look back on this and be like, oh yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I think Shaq's going to rack up some things where we're like, ugh, this guy. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah,
and I don't hate Shaq. I just think he's kind of annoying and like not that great of a dude. But
that's fair. Worth noting that the Jazz beat the Knicks in this game. Austin Rivers had 25 points in the first half on 10 of 10 shooting from the field, 5 of 5 from 3, and he finished the game with 25 points. So I was getting ready to just come on here and be like, this is the guy that you hate. This is the guy you hate. You keep, and then this, you know.
I was pretty close to texting you because my Knicks fan buddy texted me, Austin Rivers is 25 in 11 minutes or something. So I was like, now I'm going to have to apologize to Austin Rivers because I think I said it was absolutely outrageous that he has more minutes than Emmanuel Quickly, just like as recently as last week.
Yeah, you could have texted your buddy saying, yeah, he could have had 35 if he didn't have 3 fouls with 5 minutes left in the second quarter.
Yeah. But yeah, so I stand by it. Austin Rivers should not be playing more than Emmanuel Quickly. He just shouldn't be. He got hot, and then he played horrible. And that may have cost him the game. Like, he went 0 for 4 and didn't contribute at all down the stretch.
Well, yeah, it didn't help that Quickly went 1 of 11 tonight. But he's a rookie. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, we know what Austin Rivers is.
Yeah. Well, this is just going to be the Knicks all year, right?
Yep.
Win some, lose some. Until they get Derrick Rose and go to the championship. The Hawks beat the Clippers, as we mentioned, snapped the Clippers' win streak. The Clippers had like a 7-game win streak coming into this. They had the best record in the NBA. But no Kawhi, no Paul George, no Patrick Beverly. So really, and in terms of like a win, it's good to win games.
Yeah.
But I mean, like for the Hawks, they're not fun to watch on offense. Like for a team that is led by Trae Young, who everybody loves, and a lot of talented offensive players, their offense is not fun. It's a lot of high pick and roll with Trae shooting without any passes or one pass, and then like there's not a lot of ball movement.
Dude,
what? It reminds me a little bit of like Houston a couple years ago when they led the league in pick and rolls. The difference is James Harden is one of the best scorers in a generation, and Trae Young is 6 foot tall and shoots from 30 feet out. And they talked about it multiple times on the broadcast tonight, how he's shooting like 23% on those type of threes. And last year, Damian Lillard led the league in those type of threes and shot 42% on those, like those deep threes.
Yeah.
Like they're bad shots. He takes a ton of.
They are bad shots.
And I know people that probably either watch this or see the box score like, oh, well, he went 12 of 23 for 38. Yeah, I mean, yes, he had a good scoring game, but the offense doesn't look good. I mean, they scored 108 points against a Clippers team that's missing their 3 best defensive players. They scored 115 the other night without Trae Young against one of the best defenses in the NBA against Milwaukee. The problem the other night was that they didn't have Capela and their defense stunk. They didn't win this game because Trae had 38. They won this game because the Clippers didn't have their 2 best players and scored 99 points. And the Hawks, by the way, are a fun defensive team. A potentially like lockdown, high-level defensive team. I mean, and the more I watch them, I'm like, who would have ever thought this?
Is the only reason they have a winning record right now. It's how good that defense is playing. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to double down on what I said recently, that this team is too talented for Trae Young to be this ball dominant. You know, like it just doesn't. Mm-hmm. It's just not what you want when you like. In Houston, it worked. The team was built around one guy who was absolutely unstoppable. This team is loaded with talent, so why not get everybody involved and ditch this whole high pick and roll obsession that isn't translating into like wins. It's translating into a guy who's going to be an all-star with hollow numbers, in my opinion.
And also, it's worth noting, like, again, this is where you know people are going to look at the box score and say, well, Trae Young had 38, the Hawks won. The Hawks were up by 2.
Yeah, they struggled.
Entering the fourth quarter, they were only up by 2. Trae Young did not start the fourth quarter, and that's when they extended their lead. And it was because Kevin Huerter was getting open looks. He didn't shoot a 3 until the fourth quarter. I think he had 11 in the fourth quarter or something like that. He had 3 for 3 from 3, and DeAndre Hunter was getting touches. Those two were the ones who were scoring in the fourth quarter at the beginning that stretched the lead out to 7. It wasn't Trae Young. Now, Trae Young came in and closed out the game, and that's fine. That's what you should do if you're supposedly the best player on the team. But it wasn't Trae Young scoring 38 was not why they won this game. Mm-hmm. It helped, obviously, having the guy, but their offense I don't like it.
Yeah, it's just so obvious that if either Kawhi Leonard or Paul George was in this game, the Clippers were going to win because if the Hawks played this way, mm-hmm. Trae Young's not getting 38 against one of those guys, and Clippers would have won this game pretty easily. So. Right. It's a fine. The Hawks handled business against a shorthanded team, but it's not a win really to get excited about.
Oh, there's so many people that are just like, oh, Trae Young, last 5 games, blah, blah, blah. Like, dude, how about let's talk about how John Collins and Clint Capela combined for 29 rebounds and 7 blocks.
That's awesome. Yeah.
John Collins had 5 blocks. It's wild to me that there's a chance that he may not be on this team. I would do everything to keep that guy.
Be a really bad mistake. And Capela also looks fantastic.
Yeah,
they both move so well.
He has 63 rebounds in the past 3 games now. Or something like
that's nuts, and a ton of blocks. And it's just the way he also his body control for being that big. Even the way he looks fantastic on those alley oops. I mean, it's pretty hard not to look awesome.
So does John Collins, dude. John Collins' athleticism is
it's through the roof.
It's effortless.
Yeah,
he doesn't even look even Zion. Looks like when he's obviously the most athletic player there is, mm-hmm. but he looks like he loads up a little bit.
Yeah, it's not. John
effortless. Collins has this springiness.
He looks spring loaded. Yeah,
it looks like he doesn't even try, and he's head is above the square. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think what you said the other day really hit home with me. That building around Trae Young with this current roster, build it handing the keys to Trae Young and him taking 23 to 30 shots a game is not conducive to reaching this team's potential at all.
I don't want this team to miss the playoffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I would be fascinated to see what happens if this team misses the playoffs.
Well, they would just fire the coach and be like, you didn't,
Yeah, but I would be fascinated to just hear the narratives.
Right.
Will the media start to turn on Trae?
Right.
Because so far, people have talked about how he's not shooting the ball well and how he's struggling, but no one has blamed them having a not as good of a year as they thought on Trae.
Mm-hmm.
People are still like, oh, he's scoring in this. I would be interested if they didn't win. Would they blame it on the injuries? What would they? I know obviously Lloyd would get fired, which is whatever. Who knows? Maybe he's not a good head coach. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Their offense stinks, and part of that has got to be the coach.
Right.
So, because Trae Young is good, but has not earned the right yet to dictate what the offense is.
Mm-hmm.
So they're obviously running an offense because he is their most talented scorer, which is fine. But it's a very ball dominant offense.
Yeah, I guess it's weird because in years past when they weren't as talented, making Trae Young super ball dominant was probably your best way to just compete, right? But now you're not
competitive. They weren't competitive.
I mean, just to even
they won 20 games or
score any points. But yeah, I don't know. It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Right.
If you want to win games.
Right. So we'll see. But I don't like their offense. I don't love their defense. Love their defense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can win. You can sneak your way into the playoffs with the potential for what their defense can be.
Mm-hmm. And if they didn't have Trae Young, their defense would be even better. Because
by the way, also I'm not sure if something happened with Rondo that they didn't want to he's falling out of the rotation. But this kid Brandon Goodwin, that is he is
got a player
so fat. I don't know if he's good.
Oh.
He went to Florida. he went to Florida Gulf Coast. I know that.
Okay.
He's been in the league for a couple years. I think he was an undrafted free agent. So fast. He had one possession where I was I think he was off of a make. He just took it and was like, this is mine.
Yeah.
Got right to the rim, went by everybody. I was like, holy crap, this guy's fast. Let's play Brandon Goodwin.
Sure.
Give this guy some minutes. That was fun. That was fun. I like that. The last game of the night, easily the most depressing. Yeah. Man, the Wizards are bad.
They're horrible.
They got beat 107-88 by the Rockets, who actually everyone played other than Christian Wood, and this team might be fun.
Mm-hmm. Definitely fun. Yeah, we should admit, Wizards are still absolutely ravaged by COVID.
Yes,
but they're still really, really bad as well.
Yeah, very ravaged. They're starting a guy named Anthony Gill, who I don't know who that is, and I follow the NBA pretty intently. They're still so. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I did want to point this out. Like, Russell Westbrook does look bad, right? But so does Brad Beal, and I will say this: like, maybe Russell Westbrook's not as bad as we think he is. Maybe he's playing on a really shitty team. And
I said night one that this bench was absolutely horrible. So I mean, that I stand by that.
Well, it's worse now.
Yeah, it's worse now because.
But I'm just saying, like, there were possessions like now Russ he is falling back in love with like the one-handed flick passes that are bad turnovers, this and that. But then he is also making nice passes to a guy named Isak Bonga for threes. Like, what are we expecting to happen? Like,
well, he missed both of them.
Yeah, exactly. And Anthony Gill missed all three of his. So yes, Russ is on the wrong side of the prime of his career, obviously, and he's not as good as he once was, and he's probably not very good at it. But I think maybe there's a little bit more about this team just stinks. And then for Brad Beal, the story now is at the end of the game, he got taken out in the fourth quarter, and he looked like he was having a meltdown, like a depression meltdown. Like he was just like he was like hands on his knees, head down, like just like this, like not touching his head, like hands next to his head and just like shaking his head, just like what am I doing here? And then there's a couple like screenshots of people that people took, like of him on the bench, just like with this look like where am I? He looked like in a daze,
1,000-mile stare type thing.
He looked in an absolute daze. It was just, I tweeted almost immediately, like, dude, like the trade demand's got to be coming soon. It's got to be coming. Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't see a scenario where that guy makes it. I mean, I think we've said this a few times, but I don't see how he can make it through without.
Yeah, the Wizards are just in such a, like, they're committed. They had committed so much money to John Wall, which has now turned into Russell Westbrook for so much longer. You know, like, their books are all jammed up for like 4 more years. So like, you can't really effectively reset this thing. Like, ideally, you trade Brad Beal for a bunch of picks and maybe a young player or two, but like, it just doesn't really a rebuild doesn't work when you have the highest paid player in the league on your books for 3 or 4 more years. So they're in a weird spot.
A lot of Miami media down here getting an itchy trigger finger
For Brad?
Oh yeah.
That'd be pretty. Man, that team.
They have the way this. You know how it is. I guess in any city, but particularly in a city where the fans are not like real, like not the greatest sports fans.
You like whispered that, I noticed.
Yeah, well, I also host a Heat podcast. But before the season, there was like heavy debates on whether you would include Tyler Hero for Brad Beal, and now it's like, how soon can we get Brad Beal in Miami? And doesn't really matter what the cost is, as long as it's not Jimmy Butler or Bam Adebayo.
Look,
that's what it's become down here. So.
I'm not even close to saying Tyler Hero should be off the table, but I'm kind of midway still. You know, like
I'm not. I love Tyler Hero.
Yeah, no,
Brad
I know.
Beal's so good, dude.
Yeah, I know.
It was easy for us to say that before the season when we hadn't seen Brad Beal play in months, and we just saw Tyler Hero do what he did. Now we're seeing him play, and even when he looks bad, he gets there. Like, he's so good.
And he is also, like, 4 years younger than James Harden, so it makes more sense that...
He's in his prime.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you got to do it if it's available. But
I mean,
The
how
Heat,
much?
we don't have to talk about the Heat. We'll talk about the Heat tomorrow because they play tomorrow. But there's a whole other thing with Tyler Hero hasn't played in like 3 or 4 games. He has this neck thing, so I don't know what's going on there. They keep listing it as neck spasms, but how many? How long can you sit with neck spasms? There's some people down here who are like, what's the deal? Because when you have a neck issue and it's keeping you out, but it's spasms every night, there seems like, is there more that like? Can't get the guy a massage. Get the guy some acupuncture, massage, like something. Get him like a good like a massage chair for his house. Like something.
I'm laughing.
Like, work out the kinks, man.
I'm just remembering last year when Bam Adebayo said his like neck strain was affecting his brain, and I just
oh my god, yeah, I forgot about that. What was that? Oh, yeah,
he was explaining why his neck injury was lingering, and it didn't make any sense, his explanation. But I every time I think about it, I laugh a little bit.
It was like his Zoom media thing.
Yeah,
he was talking about it. The way your neck in
neck injuries,
neck injuries impact the brain. It's like, huh?
It was
it was his shoulder.
Yes, that's why it was so ridiculous.
He was saying his shoulder was impacting his brain.
Yeah, and we were like, wait, what? What?
Huh? Yeah, that was weird. Yeah, the Rockets, who they lost to, I think John Wall sort of alluded to it after the game. It was like, this is one of their first games where pretty much everyone is healthy other than Christian Wood. And you can't glean too much from a game where you're playing the worst team in the NBA at the moment. Mm-hmm. But they do look like at the worst. John Wall, Victor Oladipo, PJ Tucker, Christian Wood, and DeMarcus Cousins look like it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
And they look like there is something to be said about they look like they all like playing with each other. It's still early, but they do look like they enjoy playing together again.
That sort of thing's huge. And, they're going to be a fun storyline to follow because they're talent-wise, I believe they can be a playoff team. They just need to make things work.
It's just a ragtag group of former All-Stars who've had devastating career-altering injuries.
Ragtag is a good way to put it.
And they're right there. They're going to be right in that mix to be in that play-in.
Yeah. And maybe they've gotten their big COVID debacle out of the way. Maybe that's behind them, but I don't know.
Listen, man, I was told today that I'm supposed to wear 2 masks now. I don't know if anyone's gotten it out of the way. But they can get it out of the way if they get COVID sniffing dogs.
Yes. Did that work tonight? Was this game? Oh,
no, it's
Miami.
Tomorrow,
no, it's
right?
Miami. Okay, yeah.
But I don't. Are the Heat at home tomorrow?
I'm not sure.
Because they were in Brooklyn tomorrow.
I'm going to be all over that story because I love it.
It's at home.
Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, this is big. Like other show, like they were talking about it on Pat McAfee's show, and that's all they talk about is NFL. And he was. Let me tell you something. That guy was very much in the same boat that I'm in.
The skeptic boat?
Oh my God. I mean, he was being his humor is very sarcastic. So his whole thing was like, let's go. If the dogs if dogs can then open it back up. Let's open everything back up. And then one of his guys in the thing who's a little bit gullible was just like, I don't understand. How can dogs sniff COVID? And he goes, yeah, well, that's the fucking point. It's bullshit. Like after like a 10-minute rant about how he's pumped and how the dogs are saving everything and this and that, he's like, yeah, it's fucking bullshit.
I think these dogs are about to prove Pat McAfee and you wrong. Okay.
I mean, I hope you're right. If I don't have to wear 2 masks every day.
Yeah, and I mean, just get a dog outside right outside.
I was told today that the mask that I wear every day, doing nothing.
Great. So I've been fogging up my glasses for 3 months for absolutely no reason.
The particular mask that I wear every day, which that's not over here, but the one that I wear is not doing anything.
How about instead of the next stimulus check, they send me a dog? That'd be dope. Like they just give me a COVID sniffing dog,
or just buy a dog. And
then I have to train it to sniff COVID.
Yeah, no, but you can. I mean, what's the check? Like $1,400? You can probably get a dog for cheaper than that, and then train it.
Right, but that training, I think that's going to run me at least $1,000.
How much does it cost you to buy COVID to train the dog?
I think I can get that out on the street. There's a guy that's been coughing quite a bit.
Yeah,
that's
cough into my mouth so I can train my dog to sniff COVID.
Mm-hmm. In the long run, it's going to save us all money. So,
well, you know, you do it like if you do get a COVID sniffing dog, maybe we could actually make some money because we're not making any money off this podcast.
Yeah.
Maybe you can like
leverage the power of the beast. Dude.
Yeah, like charge people find out what it costs to get a COVID test and just charge a little bit cheaper and stand outside the COVID testing.
That's actually brilliant.
Like, hey, guys, instead of having to deal with your insurance and pay for this test, like, throw me like $5, and I'll tell my dog to walk in front of you.
Yeah. Any listeners right now, if you don't get an episode out of us in the coming weeks, it's because we've fully pivoted to that business model where we're just training COVID dogs.
Well, even if I got a COVID dog and I was doing that side business, I would just quit my other job.
Right. Okay. Well, we want to be all in. But.
Exactly. What's more all in than quitting the job that pays me and keeping doing the job that doesn't pay me?
Good point.
Oh, man. This is all of our shows seem to this seems to happen at the end of every show now.
What, just a friendly banter? Or?
Yeah, about nothing. Well, I guess we're talking about COVID sniffing dogs. It is relevant because there will be COVID sniffing dogs at an NBA game tomorrow.
Yeah.
And, man, I mean, here, I guess my whole point about this, to sort of put a bow on it, is we won't know if it's successful. We just have to take the dog's word for it. X-Blind X says stream the COVID dogs. Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't we?
I can probably have somebody down there. We can probably have somebody down there. I don't know.
No, I think he's talking about like when we get our COVID dogs.
Oh,
like stream that.
Absolutely, yeah.
All I'm saying is this: whether it works or not, we will never actually know because we're just taking the word of the dogs. I keep saying we're taking the word of the dogs, but you understand what I'm saying.
But we will know if it goes horribly wrong. I do think if they try
but that's that's why this whole thing is so crazy. We don't know that.
If a dog sits down indicating that this person has COVID to somebody that recently got tested and thinks they are clear, we're going to have a fiasco. Because if a dog doesn't...
Okay. Say that again.
If a dog who's sniffing someone that's trying to get into the Heat game tomorrow sits down and indicates this person has COVID and doesn't let them in, and that person is under the belief that they don't have COVID because they've been tested recently, I don't know how that situation is going to play out. Like, it could be amazing.
Rapid test.
Oh, they're going to double check with that? But
No. You can opt out of the dog and get a rapid test.
No, I'm saying the dog is saying you have COVID.
Okay, well, then they say, well, I don't believe the dog. Give me a rapid test. I know you have them. Or
there could be some fiascos.
Hey, let's see. Again, people trust dogs more than they trust humans. So the odds are that they will trust
the person
dog.
just goes home. They're just like, oh shit, I got COVID.
Does not get to go to the game.
Yeah.
I would bank on that. But here's the thing though. So you say we will know if it goes terribly wrong. Okay. I don't think that's true because we actually don't know how anybody gets COVID. Like, we don't know who you're getting COVID. Like, for the most part, like, yes, there's going to be contact tracing. But if like 10 out of the 2,000 people get COVID, are they going to contact trace all the fans that were at the game? I don't think so. So how are you going to prove that it was the dog that was wrong? Because once again, they're going to believe the dogs over the people.
I get yeah. But if 10 people get COVID, they're not going to be able to ever be able like to say you got it in the arena.
Why?
Whether they got it or not.
Why?
Because everybody went about their daily lives the next day, and
that's my point. Is you don't know if they got it in the arena.
I know. Yeah, a lot of this shit is unfalsifiable. Like it's.
So that's why I'm saying you don't know if it is like even if it goes horribly wrong, we'll never know because there's no way to prove that it actually went horribly wrong in the arena.
Yes, it could go horribly wrong, and we don't know. But I'm hoping if it does go horribly wrong, it's the way I laid out, and we've got some people freaking out at dogs for thinking they're.
Hold on, you think that people are going to turn on the dogs?
No, I think people that have season tickets and paid a lot of money to go to this game that get denied, that think they don't have COVID, are going to be super pissed off that a dog is not letting them in. But we'll see.
That's true because, yeah, if you live in South Florida and you have enough money, okay, I probably shouldn't say this. This might ruffle some feathers. There's like a 50-50 shot that if you live in South Florida and you have enough money to have season tickets, you're a huge asshole.
Don't say that. I can't. I
think that's a good way to end the show.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Later.